Last time out on the network, I had to concede defeat in my bid to begin a brand new franchise running from Gardcity down here to Sanley. Whilst I work on resolving that little conundrum, I figured it would be best to start working on other parts of the network, beginning here, at what will likely become the busiest station on the entire map. Hey everyone, it's M4J here, and welcome back to the new M4J network, or just the M4J network here on openttd. Before we go any further, I got a stinking cold, so apologies if my voice sounds a little bit funny. I will try and keep all the coughing and spluttering and all that stuff off microphone, but just in case one does slip out, again I apologise in advance. No idea where it came from, just snuck up on me earlier on this week. This video may be a little bit delayed because of it, so apologies for that as well, although I'll do my best for that to not be an issue. There we go, first throat clear. Managed to mute the microphone just in time. So what are we doing? We're here at Sanley. This is not where we're going to be building today. As you saw from the intro, we're going to be heading over to Gardcity St Mark in just a moment. But I just wanted to talk a little bit more about what happened in the last episode, because the 3 episodes of the database are out now. First of all, sorry about the resolution in those. I didn't realize that the big screen was going to cause such an issue when it came to editing, and it's only when I was editing that I realized I'd been talking for an hour about the program and you could barely see any of it. So again, apologies for that. I seem to be apologizing a lot today, don't I? The main crux of it though was the program failed to find a resolution for all of the conflicts detected when introducing the western reaches south. Might sound like an issue, but actually it doesn't. It goes back to something I was doing 2 episodes ago, which was dramatically cutting services. Someone actually commented recently and called me beaching. Yes and no. Beaching wasn't really someone who cuts services as much as he was someone who cut lines. Although I suppose to do that you do have to cut services as well. But my plan isn't to cut services by removing the lines. My plan is to cut services in order to allow new ones to take their place. So I'm actually coming up this way. One of the problems I've got, excuse me, and I'm just going to open my other tab for this. I'm going to try and talk into the microphone whilst I'm doing this, is Western Reaches North has half-hourly frequencies. So all of the express trains, particularly the ones down here to Plindon Junction, and the stoppers and the semi-fast, they all operate every 30 minutes. And that is the same, scroll, for the trains coming out of Moddingpool Falls in this direction, heading up to Sunnington. Every 30 minutes there'll be a train coming through here. It's 7:30 in the morning right now, so they might be a little bit staggered, but you can see, yeah, one to GSMI, and then, where's 30 minutes later? That one, GSMI, and so on and so on. And these are the semi-fast trains. But the problem is we've got right now 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe, services, 5 services using these tracks, which means there's a train every 6 minutes operating along here. Which might not sound like much, but when I include the headways, the expected headways, that means there's a very tight window in order to try and get another service through. Because let's say that 5 increases to 6, suddenly there's a train every 5 minutes. And then that increases to 7, suddenly there's a train every 4 and a bit minutes. It starts to get quite tight. Excuse me. So I can see why the program was struggling to get the extra services in, because there were 2 services between Sanley and Sunnington, and it couldn't get either of those in. So I've come up with some solutions to this. I haven't implemented any of them yet, and I probably won't in this episode either, but I just wanted to talk openly about what I think the problem was, which is too many trains on the track. Doesn't matter how good your conflict resolver is, you can't bend time. So if there's too many trains occupying the track in a single moment of time, you can't resolve that any other way than by just taking trains out, which is what we did last time, which is why this little fella now is going to roll straight over this bridge and straight into the available platform. It doesn't have to sit at this signal anymore. Excuse me again. So that's what we're going to do. That's the long-term plan. I've already identified on the Western Reaches North, I'm going to take out one of the Sunnington services from GSMI. It's the one that stops at Bendinghead, Wardham North and Bedtown Mill. The reason being is we already have Bendinghead and Wardham North served by the Plindham train, so there will be options for connections there. And on the flip side of that, we already have a train going to Sunnington, even though it's more of an express train. As well as that, on the Western Reaches South, so the service pattern that we just introduced in the last episode, I'm cutting 4 services. The non-stop Gardcity to Stanley service I'm getting rid of, because I think that was causing lots of problems. Fast trains chasing slower trains. Stanley to Sunnington, that stops more irregularly. That one's going, so we're going to have the one that stops more frequently. I'm not sure if that is the solution to that problem, actually, but I might swap that one around in the long term. But again, it was me identifying fast trains chasing slower trains was actually causing more problems. A smarter person than me would make it so that the faster train leaves first, but the problem is the calculation of getting that fast train out of Preybourne before the slower train arrives. There is, of course, documented evidence of when that occurs, but right now, particularly when I'm working under tight time constraints, that's a bit more infeasible. But with the new database coming at some point in the not too distant future, that will be easier to see, because then you can literally just look at Preybourne, see all of the departures and find a slot for it, or hopefully the program would actually be able to do that for you. The other two, I'm just going to go through those quickly. Gardcity to New Puston, the semi-fast, we don't really need that one anymore. The Kidlinghatton train stops at New Puston anyway, and likewise the Sanley to New Puston. As cool as it was to have semi-fast trains also terminating at New Puston, it was becoming a massive headache, because even though the track between Portfield, I want to say, where are we? Between Fort Flonwood, which is here, that's not Fort Flonwood. What is that? That's Woolworth. No, Fort Flonwood is over here. Between Fort Flonwood and New Puston, and even, Kidlinghatton, it is 4-track, but technically it's 2 pairs. And this area here at Portfield was where a lot of the conflicts were occurring, because you've still got, particularly, actually, yeah, this is the good example, because all the ones from Sanley were heading up to Fort Flonwood, apart from the 2 that terminate at New Puston, plus the ones from Gardcity heading to Kidlinghatton and New Puston, meant there were like 6 different services operating through Portfield. And again, one every 10 minutes doesn't sound like a huge amount, but with the headways and stuff built in, that was becoming a major issue, and just finding a free slot for a train was becoming too difficult, because there might be a free slot 5 minutes from now, but to hold a train at a station for 5 minutes would breach one of the other rule sets that are in the program. And so it wasn't able to do it. And because it only adjusts one station at a time, it wasn't able to say, okay, let's do 2.5 minutes here and 2.5 minutes here, or 2 and 3, or 4 and 1, or whatever it might be. So it ends up just failing, which really shows a limitation with the program. That may be something for the future version. We implement something like that, but I don't know. So that's my solution, as I said. I need to stop talking because my throat is starting to hurt. But yeah, those 4 services cut from the south. Also moving some stuff around in the north. Changing it from half-hour frequencies. That's not the right franchise. Removing the one from the northern one. And then changing the frequencies from 30 minutes to 60. Just doing that means there will only be a train every 10 minutes currently operating. Always scrolling. Operating through Bedtown, which means suddenly your capacity is doubled. You can have twice as many services running through, so long as they're all hourly, of course. And actually what we're witnessing here is one of the other issues that we had. This may also actually get resolved if I ran the program again. But yeah, this. So the reason I haven't implemented any of these changes yet is because of another limitation with the current programs, is I would have to go through and rebuild all of those schedules again that you saw in the second episode of the database project, in order to change the frequency from 30 minutes to 60. Now you might say, why don't you just go and change the JSON file? And the reason is the minimum number of vehicles will also change. So it's, again, smarter people than me would do the maths and figure it out for themselves. But for me, I like the fact that the program was actually doing that calculation for me, so I don't want to go and change that. The other advantage of doing all this, of course, first of all, these trains, we're not going to sell them or anything. We're going to store them in the depot, just like these two are here, because actually some of these can be reused on the southern side of the franchise, because they will all the APTs will be stored at Moningpool Falls. So that kind of works out. We don't breach the capacity limits here, because again, these 5 tracks are off limits because of the stupid limitation thing, which I really hope gets fixed at some point, but I can kind of understand why it's there as well. Anyway, what are we doing today? Well, today was going to be one huge project, but because I'm trying to keep episodes shorter, he says, having talked for 10 minutes already about just the previous episode, we're actually going to split this into 3. And you might be thinking, surely we don't need 3 episodes for whatever you had planned. Oh yeah, we need 3. Basically, I've been promising people for a long time now, channel members, Patreon supporters, very valuable members of the channel, that I would be working on their franchises so that they could come on and start running trains. I haven't done that, which is entirely my fault. I put my hand up. Because I've been distracted by doing other things, like trying to get a conflict detector to work. Today, we are finally coming back and we are actually getting this working. So I'm here at GSMA. This is the hub of all things Gardcity South. Everything that runs to the southern main lines starts here. And that includes Centre Rail, which is George's franchise, and then the Gardcity SouthWestern, Southern and Southeastern, which are Mastertrams' franchises. George also has Great Western, which operates out of GSP, that's on the to-do list, and Great Eastern out of GSJ, which is definitely on the to-do list because it actually integrates with the Overground franchise, which is something I want to get working at some point in the not too distant future as well, and just stress testing what the network can do essentially. So sorry, to head back to what I was talking about. Why does this need 3 episodes? Well, I had a list of things from Mastertrams that he wanted me to do on the lines here, and on top of that I had a list of my own of things I wanted to do. The main parts of which are rebuilding the existing lines to make them more realistic, re-speed limiting them to make them more realistic, and also to match the demands of what Mastertrams wants to do. So for example, the Great Eastern main line here out of New Rennington in particular was speed limited for, I believe from the get-go, 90 miles an hour. Yes, Mastertrams wants it to be 100, which is fine by me. It's only 10 miles an hour difference, and it means he can run more express trains. I believe he said that's a 2.5 minute saving as well on one section of the line, which is pretty impressive. Because again, you could probably squeeze another service in that gap. And we're also adding loads of new branch lines, which is something I'm going to talk about a little bit more later on. Essentially, we're going to have it so that hundreds of trains will be operating out of GSMA. Thankfully, that's not my problem to solve. Mastertrams does this professionally. He knows what he's talking about. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he can come up with. And with the existing system of doing the conflict detection, wouldn't actually be possible for him to implement his own services separately without some form of JSON file to then run through the conflict detector. But with the new database system, he could actually input all of his services manually, and the database would still be able to recognize where they are and detect conflicts between them and other services. It's a little tidbit there. It's random tangent. I apologize. So the reason this is 3 episodes, or it's going to be 3 episodes and not necessarily just 1, and I don't know if I want to do these consecutively. There may be other things going on in between these episodes, but ultimately I want to get this done as quick as possible because it isn't for me, it's for somebody else. The reason there are 3 episodes is because each one of these franchises, Southwestern, Southern and Southeastern, is 1 page of a 3-page document. of notes on things to do. There's a lot of stuff, and actually the next one, the Southern, that's the one that's the longest, because Southern goes everywhere, as it turns out. Southwestern, for those of you that don't know, is this main line here, which is mainly centre rail actually, but from the slow lines, I was toying with the idea of building another connection here somehow that would connect up to the bay platforms. I don't know how to do that though. Even just looking at it here, I don't know what would work. Let's say I built a bridge straight across. Yeah, I don't think there'd be enough space. Unless it came out this way and went around and then over. That's possible, but that might be a bit too complicated. It's something that was asked of me though, but mainly these stations here are for the centre rail stopper trains. And then the Southwestern itself actually comes through this way and through Shoreham Junction, which is also going to become a very busy station. And then this set of tracks here is the main line that comes down this way into the airport. And then that splits into two, although this is going to look very different by the end of today's episode. And then goes from there down to Fort Flonwood here and beyond. This, I think, needs a rename because we're not at Fort Flonwood at this point. We're miles away from Fort Flonwood, and there's some other pretty big towns nearby. So this is currently FFP, Fort Flonwood Parkway, but I think it might actually be renamed to whatever this is up here. But again, that's a whole complication. So yeah, not going to worry too much about that. Anyway, as I said, we've got flyovers to replace. We've got stations to rebuild. We've got branch lines to either build or rebuild. We've got main lines to rebuild. More stations to rebuild. And lots of other exciting stuff to do. So, we should probably get on with it. The first thing I'm going to do is the main line between Gardcity here and Charwood, which you'll see in just a moment. And I'll talk you through it more in just a moment as well. Now, as I said, this video might be delayed, so by the time I talk to you next, my voice might have recovered. That is the plan, that is the theory, but we'll see. For now, though, enjoy the time lapse, and I'll be back momentarily. And there we go. We are done. That was a lot. Excuse me. Already with the throat clearing. If I do my maths, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there's 7 or 8 clips there. Recorded over almost as many days. Just getting all of this up and running. We're going to do a quick recap. Because I never really explained properly what I was doing today. Mainly because of the voice. And the voice is still a little bit funny. So apologies if I do clear my throat and stuff during all of this. But hopefully I have a complete Gardcity SouthWestern franchise now that I can send over to Mastertrams and he can start planning out his services. Starting over here at GSMA then, I haven't done anything with any of these signals. That will be done off camera. Keep it nice and simple. We will then from here run down this way. This line here through Prinley and beyond. Let me just get rid of those and those. Excuse me. The line down here through Prinley, not much has changed apart from this, which we'll come back to in a moment. The rest of this, though, is pretty much as it was. It's just been re-signalled a little bit, and then this section here has been changed slightly. Similar over here. We'll come back to that in a moment as well. This is the first big change. Rinston Airport, Gardcity Rinston Airport has been rebuilt. The actual airport itself, I think I've mentioned this before, that will sit now in this space here. The motorway will get moved. In fact, the motorway has already been severed here, so that needs to get redone. But yeah, essentially, the runways will occupy all of this space here, up to Shelbister. And the tracks will just run alongside it. But yeah, this is the first big change. I don't think, did I do anything else along this section? No, I didn't. And Shoreham is pretty much the same as well. I will go check the signals before I send it off, just to make sure that everything there is okay. But yeah, Rinston is now a lot smaller. It's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 platforms, when previously it was however many this was, 10. The tracks here, I've left these ones here as a legacy thing. I asked Mastertrams about this. The arrangement was we'd take this line here from 4 down to 2 tracks, but I will leave the permanent way in place, and not the permanent way, what's the track bed, the right of way in place, just in case we decide to change things in the future. So I've left this lifted track here just as a reminder as to what once was here. And then this section over here, it's not going to be too difficult to rebuild the 4th platform at Tatham. Again, we'll come back to what this is all about in just a moment. And again, I've just realized some signaling needs doing here. Or at least, excuse me, speed limiting needs doing here. Tatham is technically a terminus station now as well. You can see from here, trains can come down and through and terminate in this central platform. In either direction, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, this is all basically 2 tracks now. And probably will always be 2 tracks. But as I said, the other 2 are there just in case. The other line through Dintown, all I did here was just make it similar thing as Tatham actually. So the central platform is technically the terminus one. These are only 5 long. So I might add a 6th one under the bridge. My God, my voice. And then just shuffle up the junctions here slightly so that longer trains can fit. I didn't actually ask Mastertrams what rolling stock he was planning on running, but I do know, I think it's the 258s and the 458s and the 460s might be on the agenda, because when we were talking about upgrading some of the speed limits, those were the 2 examples of units given that can actually run at 100 miles an hour and are from the 1990s. But yeah, all of this is the same until we get to Galen Junction, which used to be around here somewhere, but it now sits here. And I think this is a much better place for it. And again, this kind of fits in with the theme that I'm going for with all of these rebuilds now, which is more realistic approaches to stations. This is still not quite there. And again, this is actually a carbon copy of Rinston. When you look at it, it didn't mean to be, but it ended up being the case. But we've got the through lines, and then we've got stopping platforms either side. Most of these stations have been designed to terminate trains, not all of them. This is one that's been designed to terminate trains. So coming off the branch here or coming off the main line, the slow trains can terminate one of these platforms. Can't remember which one. And then you've got the through trains here on the fast lines. Oh god, I can't talk now. Fast platforms here, these two, and then slow trains can also use these two platforms. So there might be a little bit of a crossover, but overall it should be fine. These tracks then come down to Fort Flonwood. Fort Flonwood Central has also had a bit of a rebuild. You can see there's been 3 tracks lost on this side. The through lines have been moved now so that they are actually directly opposite the fast lines. This junction over here has been slightly rebuilt. This will continue to get redone when I do the Great Western for George. I'm tempted to move this station to this side of the tracks and then just have this be one smooth entry like so. I'm not entirely keen on how I've done this one. First of all, it's 8 platforms, not 7, but it's still almost a carbon copy of what I've done at Rinston and Galen, where we've got through tracks with straddling platforms and things like that. These 3 bay platforms down here are fine. The trains coming from the north, the slow trains, actually cross over all of these to terminate in these 3 bay platforms, because I haven't done that for these. These aren't terminating platforms. From the south, yeah, trains can terminate from the south. That is something that I was asked to do. So I'm quite happy with that. Similar thing here, not 100% on this, but I think it's a neat way to get the fast lines to swap with the slow lines, which was always part of the plan here because of what happens not here at Fort Flonwood Parkway, which has also had a little bit of a rebuild. The electric overhead electric lines now occupy these 4 platforms here and these 6 platforms here. To be honest, it could have swapped because I think we need more platforms from the south than we do from the north, but it's fine. And the other remaining platforms, all the ones with third rail, actually are for through trains, so that's fine as well. And again, the fast lines line up nicely. I didn't do this, the only allow trains through in one direction thing. So let me quickly do that and share. There we go. The reason the fast and slow lines swap is not because of Flutingville, although having this waypoint here is useful. This is something else actually I talked to Master Trams about. I was looking on real-time trains the other day because I'm a nerd and that's what I do. And I noticed that some stations, fast trains are, or through trains, sorry, trains that don't stop, still have timing points on the fast lines. And I was thinking, should I do that here? And I think I've mentioned it before about adding waypoints to all of the through lines. I think I talked about it in the last episode, in fact. And the consensus I had was yes, we should. But I asked Master Trams, and actually his answer was quite smart. He said that only certain stations have that. Only certain stations have timing points. I'm trying to find the exact response that he gave because reading that out is going to be a lot more useful. For what it's worth, real-time trains only shows those non-stopping trains at the locations in which they are timed. As an example, and then he gives an example that he's been talking about to do with his day job, which I'm not going to mention because I might not be allowed to. Yeah, C2C, they have 26 stations on their network, but only 17 approximately have express timing points. So where trains run straight through, only 17 of those have potentially timing points. Basically, he said it's up to me. So some have waypoints, some don't. You'll notice on the main line, that's a really roundabout way of saying we're not doing it to all of them, we are doing it to some of them. I can't find, here we go. At Harnwell, that has a waypoint now. There were some really good examples that I had because of bridges going across the track. I've added waypoints in just to complete the bridge. I suppose these are good examples. Obviously, trains will be running through here. Not every train will stop. And because of that, we've got the waypoints there. So it will technically say Gardcity Rinston Airport on the timing sheet, but in reality, it'll be using the through lines. That's kind of where we're going with this. Anyway, to get back on topic, the reason the fast and slow lines needed to swap was because of what happens here at Sladworth Falls. We've got 4 platforms here instead of 2. That's because the tracks from here, Fort Flonwood in this direction, join in.
I asked Master Trams if he wanted to keep this loop that we had through Fort Flonwood, and he kind of said he assumed it was going to be gotten rid of anyway. So I took that as he doesn't want it anymore. So we've changed it now. So these tracks here, they can access the line heading south. So if you go through Gironam's Cross, you can either head up north to Fort Flonwood Parkway, or if you use this line here, through Plondingston Bay, through Fort Flonwood there, then round to the south, through Keffingbourne Woods, and then into Sladworth Falls. And now you're heading south on the main line. And the reason there's 4 platforms here is because we've got these new branch lines. Something I was asked to do, and I was more than happy to oblige, was to build more branch lines everywhere, pretty much. Oh, there's one of those examples of a waypoint as a bridge. Yeah, I knew I had some. This all needs trees. You can you look at it now, just so you can see what it looks like. And now we're going to cover it in trees. I was asked just to build branch lines everywhere, as many different branch lines as I could. And I wanted to have a dense South London-esque commuter type thing. Problem I had with that is I've got so many main lines bunched in the south of Gardcity that actually having branch lines do the same thing as well is quite tricky. So my solution was to kind of do a bit of both, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. But we've got branch lines here, out more in the sticks, and then we've got branch lines in Gardcity itself, and we've got a couple of new lines that link up together and things like that. So this one here out of, I said Sladworth Falls, but it's Sadworth Falls. It starts off as 2 tracks. When it gets to the airport here, which is going to occupy more of this space in the future, the terminal building is going to be over this way. And then I think I'm going to keep the runways running east to west, actually. I was thinking maybe north to south would be better and have it jut out into the water that way. I don't know. But here at the airport, where trains can terminate if they want to, they'll come through here and go into this platform and then reverse. Or if they come through, they'll go into the lower platform here and they continue on a single track line down here to Sonley, which again, you can see we've got these like rural branch lines, but this is the Great Western Main Line here. So they're not that far apart, you know, one stop on a bus, you could almost imagine. And that was the challenge, because even here, a little bit further over, we've got the Southwestern Main Line. And in terms of actual journey time, these are quite far apart. But when you zoom out and you look at them like that, they're basically touching. So trying to get branch lines to do what I wanted to do without actually encroaching upon the territory of other main lines and branch lines was a bit of a tricky thing to deal with. But I think I've done all right. I tried, like here you can see, I tried to just join up towns that haven't got any connections so far. And in theory, here we could have actually curved this round and continued it this way. But one thing I do want to do is encourage buses. And so, you know, a whole bus network can occupy this area and then connect up to the main line and get passengers moving that way. Back to the main line then. Again, not much changed here. The only big change was, over here. In fact, you can see the legacy of it still. It went into a flyover here to get the lines back into the right configuration. That's now been changed so that the slow lines remain on the western side now, because that is the case all the way down to, I don't think I did anything major here, no. I think this is all basically as it was. It's been re-signalled and stuff. This tunnel's been shortened, and then Charwood. This is the big change here. The sidings have been moved slightly and extended out a little bit, and that's about it. The signalling here has also had a little bit of a tweak. But other than that, it's pretty much as you'd expect. This line down here, though, has had a big change. And again, you can see the legacy of it here. I didn't like the long tunnels. I thought the long tunnels were a little bit stupid. So I've rerouted the main line this way instead. We actually get a nice new station here at Slen Hill City because of that. This isn't even on the Southwestern franchise anymore. That technically ends at Charwood. If Master Trams wishes to run a train down here, though, he's more than welcome to. But the actual sort of borders, as it were, end at Charwood. But this is open to anyone right now, this main line here. But yeah, we've got a couple of new stations. There's one at Quorfingley, and then it rejoins the line here again just at Sadhatton. This tunnel here has been kept for now. The one I didn't like was this one out of Chunning Head. I'm tempted just to make Chunning Head a terminus, for trains out of Sanley, because we're not too far away from Sanley here. So that kind of made sense to me, was to keep the station. I'm trying not to remove old stations if I can help it. Mainly because I don't want to have to go through my stations sheet and remove them that way. It's a good thing I haven't added them to the database yet, because boy, that would be painful. It's one of the reasons why I'm also dragging my feet a little bit over that side of things, because I'm doing a lot of rebuilding right now, and I don't want to add something to the database and then have to remove it, because that's a pain in the arse. But yeah, Chunninghead I think is a good candidate for a set of bay platforms instead. And I think I could just about squeeze in some buffer stops there if I do some landscaping, move that road a little bit and do some tweaking. It should be fine. And then maybe instead of this tunnel here, we go around the hill instead. Maybe. And then that's basically it for the rebuilds over here, and also for this entire section of the line. So heading back up to maybe Tatham. I don't know, we'll go back to Galen first, because yeah, there's another main branch line here. I still need to come in and add this extra station here at Plundhead. I don't think... Yeah, I can't do it yet. Bribing local authorities is something I hate having to do, by the way, as is all the demolition that I had to do in a lot of these towns. But sometimes the game gives you no choice, which is a bit of a pain. But yeah, just the same as before. It's 2 tracks along here. I could, in theory, move that signal and add another station there. Maybe. I definitely want one in Plundhead here, though, or Chadinghall, whichever local authority is in charge of this one. And then we've got a new station here at Huntfield. Another one over here at Suntfield, which is a passing loop. And then another one here at Suntfield. And then it terminates up here at Gonville, where potentially we could have some ferries do some stuff here as well. And again, talking about how close we get to other main lines, this is the Great Western Depot, which is going to get a major rebuild, obviously. And Woolworth is just up there as well. So again, we're kind of encroaching a little bit on other territories, but not much we can do about that. Over here then, at Dinpool and Rudinghatton Ridge, this is where the fun begins, in my opinion. So the first thing is, these lines here have been realigned. I will do the signalling and stuff for this off camera after I've finished this. The reason I did this was because, excuse me, I nearly choked then. It didn't look good the way it was built before, and I think this is a lot better. And also because of this, which is a new line from the line down to, I always forget the name, Garnington. Because Garnington is now, this Garnington branch is now technically on the Great Gardcity SouthWestern franchise. It's also an overground branch, and eventually this underground depot is going to get removed, and we'll have a new branch of that which will come down this way, and that will also connect to the Garnington branch, possibly over here at Slenning Way. So this is about to become a very busy branch. It's got 4 platforms at the terminus, so I thought we had the capacity, but I could end up being wrong there. But yeah, we have this new line here, so trains can now access Garnington either from Shoreham this way and down through Wrenwood South, or the fact that that's still called Wrenwood South. Wrenwood used to occupy all of this area, and now it doesn't. I feel like renaming it Tedborough might work better, but I don't know. We could just leave it as a legacy thing. Anyway, either via Wrenwood South or via Dinpool East, I was about to say, but no, Sibbertsham it would be. And it would then drop down through this way, through Rudinghatton Ridge, and then onwards. The other thing, and again, you could probably see the leftovers of this. This line here through Dinpool South used to then come down this way, drop down this way, and then join up again with the main line just over here. That is now no longer the case. That was something else that always bugged me. I think it's one of those things, I build it, and I'm like, that's quirky and unique. And then, like, a year or 2 later, or however long it's been in this case, I look at it again and I'm like, I cannot stand what I did there. What the hell was I thinking? And this was definitely a what the hell was I thinking. Why can I not remove those signals? Oh, because there's a waypoint right there. Yeah, I just saw the outline of it. There we go. So that's something else for next time, because this is the Gardcity Southern franchise technically. But yeah, we have a new line. Sorry, I keep distracting myself. We have a new line. From Dinpool South, it no longer drops down and joins the main line again. This is, in fact, its own branch. And this actually ties in nicely with the Rudinghattan thing as well. So this comes up this way through Dinpool, where it can either rejoin the main line, or the main line this way can cut across and join this branch line, or this can just come straight through. And considering this is, through Fort Slumping Way and things like that, this might even be something that Centrail does as well, this branch. Maybe, we'll see. But yeah, from here, it comes down this way, across this way, connects up with the Garnington branch at Trenwell. It's just Trenwell, and then this one down here is Trenwell Lakeside. And then it cuts across this way. It has some new stations along the way. Yep, and then connects up at Tatham, and that is that little loop. So it effectively, I was explaining this to Master Trams the other day as well, because I did a really bad job the first time around. But effectively what that means is you can come out of Gardcity St Mark, down through Shoreham Junction, down through Wrenwood South, down the main line here to Rinston, and then take the Tatham branch to Tatham. And then instead of following the branch line this way down to Galen Junction, you instead come this way and down through Dinpool South, up through Dinpool East, Sibbertsham, back to Shoreham Junction, and then back to Gardcity St Mark. And it forms a nice little loop, which is something that London has. There's the Catford loop, there's the Sutton loop. I feel like there's another loop somewhere. They don't have to be used as loops. The train can come down through Dinpool, for example, and just terminate at Tatham and then reverse back. Or it can come north to Tatham and then reverse back. It entirely up to the operator. So in this case, it's entirely up to Master Trams. And then finally, I feel like there is one more branch that I've missed. Yes, over here. So this section out of Fundingbury, this again is maybe not something that directly affects Southwestern, but it is something that affects the overground that comes out of St Thomas here, which I did offer the opportunity to have trains on the Gardcity Southwestern or Southeastern or Southern running into GST, and I believe Master Trams said not at the moment. So this is probably an overground thing, but it does connect with the Southwestern, so I thought I would do it while I'm doing this project. But yeah, essentially from here, oh yeah, I replaced this flyover with a tunnel as well, which I thought would be good. I'm going to do something similar over here next episode at Shoreham, tidy up these junctions a little bit more. But yeah, keep distracting myself. Through here, and then instead of following the main line this way down to Rinston, we branch off here, run through a new station here at Caston North, and then another station here. Then the freight line now branches off in this direction. I still need to do a little bit of a rebuild of this little bit as well, but I didn't want to do that today. And then joins up with this line, which is the other one out of Wrenwood South, which is on the Southwestern, but is technically also an overground branch. But they join up here just after Tudhead South, which is actually connected to the underground here as well. I was about to say the HLR, but no, that's definitely an underground station, and that is also a branch to Rinston, so there's another little connection there. From here it runs this way, this way, this way, this way, and follows all of this line here to Plinhill, which has been rebuilt as a proper 4-track station, where it connects up directly with the underground and actually forms a 2-track continuation. This whole section here is going to get reconsidered, I think is the nice way of saying it. I think what I actually want to do here from Plinhill is get the railway to run this way and then this way, and actually come into Great Winfield from the east rather than the west, because again it forms a loop, but there's no incentive for, I suppose overground trains can use it as a loop, because when it gets over to here at Chewood, it turns back into an overground line, and then that runs up through Florentine Way and then onto the overground loop. But there's no incentive for Centrail or Gardcity Southwestern trains to continue beyond Plinhill. I was tempted to turn this into a connection as well, But I mean, the fact that all of this branch here is an underground branch as well as an overground is insane. So I think what I might actually do is just demolish all of this and have Great Winfield be the terminus here. I don't know. I do not know. If you have any suggestions, by all means let me know. But we do have one more branch line that sneaks out here between Grinbourne and Frenwood. That was the other one. And it has a little passing loop over here at Runborough, and then this is one of the Gardcity Great Western branch lines that comes down through all of this and goes down to Dintown. So again, we've got a nice little connection between other sections of the franchise. And that's basically it. And that was the smallest of the three. So next time out on the southern, I think the southern is the one that has the most rebuilds of the main lines, but not, I think it only has 3 branch lines being built. Possibly. I think that's the case. And then Southeastern has the least rebuilds of all the 3 main lines, but has the most branch lines being built. I think there's 10 new branch lines coming on that one. But yeah, I'm not saying next time as in necessarily next episode, because there is still other things that I want to work on. But in terms of next time in this big triple-headed project, Gardcity Southern takes the spotlight. And that is the one that runs from St Mark down through Shoreham Junction and then follows this line here through Dinpool East, where it splits in 2. Half goes down to Buntbourne, which I've lost it already. This way. Here. Where it connects up with a line from Fort Flonwood. And you might have seen I was swapping stations over on this branch. I call it a branch. It's a main line, really. But Buntbourne is going to get a rebuild as part of that, which is why that project sort of stopped here. Because all of this is going to get redone. And then down through Buntbourne itself, that's all going to get redone. This entire set of junctions is going to get rebuilt. There may even be scope for a new main line running south from here in the future. We'll see. The reason I held off on that is because we've got this one, which runs down to Munfingford and beyond. And then, yeah, Munfingford itself is also going to get a major rebuild because that's part of the southern. Down this way through to Cadingbury, which is over here, which is actually going to stay pretty much as it is because it's quite a nice station. But there are lots of other things that are going to be happening in that episode. But for now, I'm going to go do the little tweaks here, send it off to Master Trams, and hopefully he can start running his timing trains and stuff. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course, if you're enjoying the series so far, drop those comments down below with ideas for future episodes, feedback on the current episodes, and all that good stuff. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you for your continued support. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and until next time, I will see you soon.